Good to see everybody. So, last month I had the opportunity to attend a 32-hour workshop, training course, and certification course that is hosted by the National Association of Interpretation. Does anybody know anything about the National Association of Interpretation? So, yeah, so I'll tell you. So, essentially the National Association of Interpretation is an organization that facilitates a lot of things. They have a certification process for people that work in the field of interpretation. So whether you're a park ranger or a tour guide or you work in a museum, that kind of falls under that umbrella. So they facilitate that. They publish a lot of literature on interpretation. They facilitate trainings and seminars and things like that. So essentially they're kind of the recognized organization for interpretation. So yeah, so the course itself, about 32 hours. It was taught by an instructor that's a certified interpreter guide instructor. Her name's Crystal DeSoto, and she runs her own local business out here that facilitates the needs of educational programs for a lot of different groups. Like she's done work for national parks, state parks, all sorts of different organizations. And so she's an affiliate of the National Association of Interpretation, and so she does the trainings. So it's 32 hours. It does involve, it's pretty hands-on. There's a lot of group activities and presentations you have to do in front of your classes and things like that. So there's about 10 people that participated in this class, different walks of life, different organizations. There was 2 ladies from national parks. There was another gal from Idaho State Parks that came, and there was actually somebody that came as far as Canada, representing their National Park Service in Canada. So it was really great. So you attend the course and then you get evaluated. So you have to pass a 50-question examination. You have to do a 10-minute presentation in front of your peers. And then you also have to provide an outline that the teacher goes through. So I'm going to do the best I can to summarize. I mean, 32 hours of training is a lot. But what the training effectively did was it expands your ideas on how to more effectively interpret material. You know, an example of what we do here at the park. You know, you're working in the IC, you're interacting with the public, you're answering questions, or whether you're working at the capacity of working at part of our adaptations program or watershed program, you're interacting and you're interpreting information to varying age groups. So, real good quote here. So through interpretation, understanding, through understanding, appreciation, through appreciation, protection. So that was spoken by Freeman Tilden. Has anybody heard of Freeman Tilden? I'm sure some of you have. So Freeman Tilden was a journalist, and he was commissioned by the National Park Service to write about the National Park Service in the 50s, and he actually wrote a book called, I apologize for the misspelling, but Interpreting Our Heritage.
Oh, that's my fault.
That is considered the Bible of interpretation. National Parks draws a lot of their interpretation standards from that book. Pretty prolific guy. So he revolutionized the art of interpretation. So, interpretation defined by the National Association of Interpretation. So interpretation is a mission-based communication process that forges emotional and intellectual connections between the interests of the audience and meanings inherent in the resource. So it's not just simply, regurgitating out facts. You're making it exciting and tangible for people that come to your park or come to your resource or museum, wherever you're working. So Tilden developed 6 key principles of interpretation. I'm going to go over all of those briefly. So number 1, you want to relate. So compare, contrast, and make it personal for your audience, for the people that you're trying to convey that information to. Number 2, reveal. Help the visitor discover something new. make something exciting. You know, maybe they've been here a few times and they're going to learn something new that they didn't know, some interesting fact about this place. 3, provoke. Inspire profound thought or action. You know, I think part of what we're doing here as interpreters or people that are interacting with the public is we want to inspire and provoke thought, provoke people to become advocates for conservation and for nature. 4, arts. Employ multiple learning styles. And that applies to not just simply speaking with folks, you know, and engaging people by utilizing certain types of activities or props or you know, whether it's building something or employing some form of art or drawing, dance, I mean, you name it. There's a lot of creativity that can be involved with trying to convey something. Number 5, holistic. Give the resource context. So the bigger picture. So, you know, for a place like this, we're not just talking about Elfin Forest. You know, we'll tie in with, you know, habitat or the watershed or San Diego County as a whole and how it plays a picture, or this plays as a part of that bigger picture. And 6, appropriate. Consider the audience. So I'm sure as a lot of you know, we deal with varying age groups. You know, you have people that are 4, 5, 6 years old, 10 years old, college-age kids, adults, and we certainly don't want to hold back the content as far as the quality. You just have to kind of rearrange it in a manner that it's something that they can understand. So you don't want to, I hate to use the term, you don't want to dumb it down. You want to make it to where they can understand it and they're still getting that same quality of information. So, has anybody heard of Abraham Maslow? I'm sure some of you have. Yeah, cool. So, he is a fairly well-known psychologist that developed what is called the hierarchy of needs. And it's a component that was developed within the field of psychology, but it's very much applicable to what we do out here interacting with the public. And it just covers the physiological and psychological needs of people. It's pretty straightforward. So on a basic scale, you're looking out for physical comfort. So you provide food, beverage, restroom, or equipment as appropriate. And always be prepared for emergencies. So how could that apply if, say, you're taking somebody out on a hike? You know, you want to be able to point out, hey, this is where our restrooms are, this is where our water is, how long is the hike going to be, you know, the weather conditions, things like that. You're looking out for people's well-being. You're making them feel secure. When I tied in with the intermediate level, belonging. So, you know, using people's names directly, you know, asking them questions directly, referring to them by their first name, using it conveying the information in a language that they can understand and relate to. And then I'll always encourage and exchange ideas and encourage involvement when you're doing any sort of thing. And also to kind of finish off on that, the advanced components of that is the aesthetics. You know, leave time for people to sink in the environment they're within, the setting. You know, promote self-actualization and celebrate experiences they may have when you're taking them out on a hike or they're enjoying the center or something like that. And there's also an approach to communication that they utilize, the principles for the association or interpretation. So purposeful. So it aligns with the missions and accomplishes measurable objectives. So you're wanting to make that content, what you're speaking of, relevant, organized. So you're wanting to organize it in a manner that is fairly structured and formatted. So that's more so for people that are speaking or in that manner. Enjoyable, employs multiple learning styles in a friendly manner. It's thematic, so you know you can make it exciting. You can use props. You can dress up. You can act crazy. You know, it's whatever you want to do. I know one of the folks that comes out here every year, Rick Halsey, he dresses up as Grizzly Adams, and he gets in period garb and has a musket, and he gets really enthusiastic and excited. And You know, some people will be like, this guy's out of his mind, but you know, you're making an impact and you're making an experience memorable for somebody. And you know, that's great for some people. I certainly know I probably won't do something like that. But you know, that's the beauty of it, is you find what works for you and you utilize it. Relevant makes emotional, intellectual connections. You want to try to make people feel emotion, feel connected to whatever it is you're trying to convey to them. And you create flexibility to design appropriate experiences for specific audiences. So now I know it said organized, as far as you want to be able to organize your thoughts and what you're trying to convey, but you also want to remain flexible. You don't want to restrict yourself to one individual style of something. So if you look, it's a nifty little mnemonic. It says poetry. Pretty cool. So part of my evaluation was I was tasked with making a outline. And this is the one that I submitted. So this is pretty simple. This was the outline I developed for my 10-minute presentation for my class, and this is pretty much the format that the NAI utilizes to kind of structure your presentation. So we'll just work down the list here. So I did my presentation on the park. I wanted to fill my group in about the park, just kind of talk about just the general information. So you got to pick a cool program title. So for me, I did Elfin Forest, a regional resource. And the theme of my presentation was the Elfin Forest Recreational Reserve protects sensitive habitat within the Escondido Creek watershed while also providing emergency water storage for San Diego County. So below that's your audience, and that can vary. That could be, you know, 4th or 5th graders. That could be adults. That could be a varying age group. But I treat it as just what my class was like. My class was here. I was out in front of the map board, and I was just telling them about the park. So 10 to 12 adults interested in learning about the Elfin Forest Recreational Reserve. And you want to establish your goals, what your goal is, what you're trying to accomplish from this program. So for me, it was to inform patrons about Elfin Forest Recreational Reserve's origins, biological resources, habitat value, and a role within San Diego County Emergency and Carryover Storage Project. They encourage finding some form of measurable objectives. So for me, I said 40% of patrons will visit the Interpretive Center, and 25% of patrons will attend a ranger/sled hike after. So I was treating it like I'm doing my 10-minute presentation, and then whoever may be interested, I would take them on an additional hike and get into more detail. So you have a way to measure it. We count the number of visitors that come to the center here, and count the number of patrons that would be attending the ranger-led hike or just-led hike. And as far as the introduction, you welcome, I introduce myself, my name, my position, who I work for. And then you cover the Maslow hierarchy. So you point out where the restrooms are, cover any sort of safety needs, physical needs, emotional needs, things like that. Get to know people, learn their names, things like that. And then I go over the theme, guidelines or rules, and then any questions before we get started. So when you create your body, you develop a set of sub-themes that kind of create a, it's just like writing an essay, essentially. You're starting your introduction, and then you create a body, and you develop a series of sub-themes that cue you and that allow you to kind of keep it in order what you're trying to go over. So I started off with EFR was established in 1993 as a cooperative effort between the BLM, San Diego County Water Authority, and OMWD. EFR surrounds the Elfin Reservoir as one of 3 large reservoirs intended for emergency storage. And then my last component of my sub-theme was Elfin Forest protects sensitive habitat within the foothills of northern San Diego County that supports endangered and locally rare species, while also providing recreational opportunities. So To conclude, you review your sub-themes and your themes, and you take questions at the end, and then offer a hike afterwards. So this is how they like to see it formatted, and yeah. So
did you pass? Yeah, did you pass?
I don't know. I passed my presentation. I passed the outline component. The unfortunate thing with the NAI is they are a small organization, and there's one lady that handles all the certifications. So my instructor was saying I could maybe hear in like 2 months, maybe 3. Which is kind of a bummer, but it's just kind of like
cash your check.
What's that?
Did they cash your check?
They certainly did. Yeah, they sure did. So it was a great experience. It was very hands-on, and I got to network with a lot of great individuals from different agencies, get their perspective on how they like to do things. Vice versa, it gets a little daunting because when you're interacting with people that are National Park Service rangers, and that's like all they do, they just do interpretation of cultural and natural resources or history all day long, and they're just dialed in, really good at it. But in the same respect too, it's good to get thrown into the mix and you get to learn, trial by fire. So,
This is really good.
Yeah.
Especially this part about taking care of their physical needs first, because I'm thinking of how many people come in here and just want the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's never even, everybody else probably knew how to do this years ago.
Sure.
But I've never seen it in that way, because what would make sense is to, tell them where it is, and then go a little further and say, hey, come back afterwards and we can do this. Did you know about that?
Yeah.
That's what I said, probably everybody else knew how to do this before.
I
Where the bathroom is until.
I think those are a lot of simple things that are overlooked that can really dictate the quality of the experience for the people that are participating in it. If you don't expand and say, hey, we're going on a 4-hour hike and we're going 10 miles and there's no restrooms and you want to make sure you have plenty of water. If you don't articulate that, people don't know and they don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
So no, it's important. And even too, there was some instances with some of my peers in this course where they had great ideas, especially for children, they like tasks. You set accountability for something. You say, hey, you're our sweep. You're going to be at the end of the pack. You're going to make sure everybody's safe, and you're going to set the pace for everybody. Things like that. Or if we're getting a creek sample, you're giving kids individual tasks. They like that. They're taking ownership for it and pride in it, and that they're contributing. So, any questions?
Thank you very much. I just want to say that I think this shows that we are on the right track. There are so many ideas and concepts in here that we are already incorporating in our programs. We might not know the poetry, or we might not know the other people and what they've said, but a lot of those things are what we're doing already. So this was a great presentation, thank you, and I look forward to that docent-led activity that I am trying to get someone to do. That worksheet that Jonathan just ran through with you is how you set it up. It's as simple as that, starting with an outline and a guide. So good job, Jonathan. You have a question?
I was going to say just about the same thing. It really shows that we're already doing so many of these things.
Yeah.
I also think you sell yourself short.
Yeah.
It's about who's in that room.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did a great job. Representing Elfin Forest extremely well.
Yeah.
You should be proud of that.
Yeah. It's easy to get nervous when you feel like you're working with people that you perceive are in the big leagues.
But they're all in the National Forest Service. My goodness.
They're probably envious of us.
That's true.
So they do these trainings infrequently, maybe a few times a year. Locally, you can find them all over the place. They do them up in LA County, Orange County, all over the country. I know they have a training coming up in January. It's going to be hosted at Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. And if you guys are interested in that, I can give you the contact information for that. It's great training.
Was it expensive?
It's a little pricey, yeah.
Could be good, like a group discount of.
The thing is the instructor that teaches the course, she's an affiliate of the NAI, and she actually does private trainings if you drum up enough interest. Now, as far as if you can get like a group rate or something, that would be something you probably have to discuss with her. But Yeah, it's about $230 for the training and then another $150 for the certification, so.
It's 32 hours, that's a long day.
But it's great because, you know, that certification, it proves and shows that you have a certain level of confidence in the field. That's internationally recognized. National parks, they put all their interpreters through it. That's kind of standard. I believe same thing with state parks and a lot of our other peer local agencies will put their park rangers through as well. So it's an important component of what we do is being able to speak about our resource here. So.
Great. Thank you. So Jonathan, you are also next.
All right, so
It's nice having you.
yeah. Let me grab the AED real fast. Excuse me. So I'm sure you've all seen the AED mounted on the back of the wall here.
Yeah.
I hope none of you guys